Now you see this car over here, it was built to compete in a university race series. It's got a motorcycle engine out back and it did all right, you know, it got third place in the race. Now, my guest for today is Mike Gascoyne, and he is the name that everybody would think of when you're thinking of F1 car design. Now, if he had his way with this car, he'd probably tweak it in such a way that it'd probably win F1 races, maybe not at the front, but you know, it'd probably be able to win some races. That's how magical his touch is. Well, why don't we find out ourselves what he thinks of this car, and we'll ask him one or two other bonkers questions.
I'm ready to roll.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. Please, let me just put you in the in a spot here and just ask you, now, if you were to have your way around with this car, it's got a motorcycle engine out back, I'm sure you know this already, and they built this in 2 months. If I gave you 2 weeks, would you be able to better this?
I'd like to think I would, otherwise I shouldn't have been working in Formula 1 for the last 20 odd years. But no, I think for the time they've spent on it and what they've done, they've done a great job. Obviously there's a lot of things they can do better. But what I like about it is its simplicity. With these cars and you know, Formula Varsity, Formula Student, Formula SAE, it's a fantastic competition for students to be doing. And I as an employer in Formula 1, look for people who've done this sort of competition.
Right, okay.
But what I always tell everyone now as part of the, because you know, I run the Caterham group and all of that, is look at a Caterham 7, you know, which is one of the lightest cars on the road, still one of the quickest road cars you can buy. And it's simple and light, and it has performance through lightweight. And when you look at this car, that has a lot of those attributes. So I like what they've done, but yeah, there's some rough edges and they need to spend more time, but it's a great job.
Now, if you were Jamie Oliver and say, I'm going to say Mike Gascoyne, the naked chef, what would be in your recipe book on how to make the perfect sports car? I mean, we're not talking about F1 here, but you know, well, you have a season off and you've got 3 months to pot around in the garage. What would you do?
Well, it's a very relevant question because that is what I'm doing in the Caterham group.
Right, okay.
I'm not doing Formula 1 day to day anymore. I'm running the road. So the new Caterham sports car that's coming out, I'm in charge of.
Right.
So it's a very relevant question.
Brilliant. Tell us then.
I think it has to stay absolutely true to the that Colin Chapman tradition that we were talking
philosophy,
about.
Yes.
So it's got to be lightweight, so very low curb weight. Because then you don't have to have the biggest engine in the world because you get performance through lightweight. Yep. So that's absolutely key. It's got to be affordable. And actually what we're saying at Caterham with the new road car, it's F1 for the masses. It's affordable F1. So lightweight, so you're not talking about 400 or 500 horsepower. You know, because you don't need it. You're not trying to beat Ferrari or Porsche because you don't have the right badge. What you want to be is producing a lightweight sports car that people can enjoy. Not an out-and-out muscle car, but as I say, very lightweight, very lively, gives really good feedback. Doesn't have to have all the gizmos. If you have them, make sure you can switch them off so people can enjoy it. But then make it practical as well, and affordable.
So that's what you do right now. That's what you pass around, in the garage, and that's precisely your job. And in between that, you also like sailing and climbing. Yeah. You've gone up the Himalayas as well.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. You can tell that. But
I was looking at your ornaments, and I thought, well, probably you picked it up recently, in your recent trips.
Well, these come. My partner, we travel around the world in Formula 1, so she buys things from around the world. But the sailing's something that's really important to me. We've just launched a sailing team, Caterham Challenge. Yeah. I sailed solo across the Atlantic last November. Yeah. So that was 17 days on my own, and I'm doing a race this November, which is from France to Brazil, which will be 25 days. So that's a fresh challenge for me. Yeah. When Tony Fernandez asked me to stop doing motor racing and concentrate on the road car, I sort of looked at it, and I'd always wanted to go sailing, and I looked at it and said, I've been sitting on the pit wall for 20 years. Involved in competitive sport, I love it, and I'm 50. Do I want to retire?
Well, you don't look it.
Do I? I've got a young girlfriend. That's the best way to do it. So, do I want to retire and become old and sort of fat, or do I want to give it a
Get
go?
about and do things.
Yeah, and so I said to Tony, yeah, I'll stop doing Formula One, but I need some time off to go sailing.
I used to live in the UK. My granddad's English, and I have this image in my head that most of my guy friends in the UK, their idea of retirement would be to buy a really nice house in Surrey or in Brighton, and have tea on the patio, or go live in the village. I have a feeling Mike Gascoyne is not of that sort of make.
No, and lying on that's probably not going to happen. Actually, I'm doing the competitive sailing. For me, retirement would be with my partner Sylvie. We plan in a few years' time to take 3 or 4 years off and sail around the world together, and that's my idea of retirement.
Right, fantastic. Okay, well, brilliant. Thank you so much for your time. It's wow.
No, great.
Thank you so much. Well, wicked. So there you have it. I've lots of words. This is the guy that when you say F1, you say F1 car design. Mike Gascoyne is the name that comes to your mind, and he's standing here in front of me. Thank you once again.
Absolute pleasure.
Stay with us on India. Hey guys, this is a brand new segment called Doing the Dino, pun intended. Now what we have in front of me here today is a Ferrari Dino. Now I'm here at Spada Motors, and we will be working together to be bringing to you this series of segments that will basically take this car from this current state to a polished, sexy beast. Now let me tell you a little bit about this car that makes it so special. It's acclaimed as one of the most iconic Ferraris of all time, but it was never intended to carry the Ferrari badge. It was intended to only be called the Dino, because this car comes in either a V6 or a V8 mid-engine rear drive configuration. Now the Ferraris of the time, back in the 60s, were all V12s, and they were expensive. Now Ferrari didn't want to produce a car that was deemed to be cheaper, so they said, well, let's call it the Dino and give it a new brand name. Now this car was designed so that it could compete against the Porsche 911 of the era, and it was around between 1968 and 1976. Now, what's the Dino? Who's the Dino? Well, let me tell you. Dino is actually the name of the son of Enzo Ferrari. His real name is Alfredo Dino Ferrari. Now, it was on his deathbed in hospital that he discussed with the lead designer and engineer of Ferrari at the time, talking about how they could design this brand new engine that would sit well within the Ferrari stable, keep the costs low, but at the same time making sure that the essence and the thrills of a real driver's Ferrari is never lost. Now, this is a product that they came up with. However, Dino died before this car came about. So, as a tribute to him, Enzo Ferrari decided to call this car the Dino. Now, how about that for a story? Now, this particular car is the 2.4 litre V6, and well, it's pretty rare. This is actually the first Ferrari that was mass-produced. About 5,000 units of it were made between 68 and 76. And previously, all Ferraris were much rarer than that. Now this car is a true driver's car. It's aluminium and also cast steel made this car light and nimble, but at the same time very, very chuckable and very, very drivable. Even the BHP at that time wasn't very high. Well, it would still give you the same thrill a big engine Ferrari would. And like I said, it was designed to go against the 911s, but also so Ferrari could compete in the Formula 2 races during that time. Now, they needed to homologate the cars, so at least 500 units of these cars needed to be built, and they did, and which is why Ferrari raced this particular car in those series. Now, apart from that, this particular unit with the Targa makes it even more rare. Now, we will be taking this car from the current state and taking you for the next couple of weeks through the processes of restoring a classic beauty such as this. So be sure to tune in, because you don't want to miss how this beautiful car is going to thrill the people of KL on the street. So stay with us on Doing the Dino.